Yeah, you're right. This is a situation where we see significantly larger demand than what we can supply. We are scaling. Just look at our results for 23 and look at a product like Ozempic. It grew 60%. It's the best-selling diabetes product in the world. We see lower pricing, so underlying scale is significantly higher than that. We have also guided for 24 now, continued double-digit growth, and also that we're now bringing more starter doses into the US market, so more than doubling the starter doses. So we are producing more and more each and every day, but there is a very, very strong demand out there.
Let me ask you about competitors, because we know you have a key competitor coming on the market in the US. There are a few more in the pipeline. Some analysts talk about a supply explosion over the next couple of years. So I want to ask you, you are forecasting lower demand in 24 off the back of intensifying competition. So how are you positioning yourself in the face of this upcoming competition, and also the price pressure that this implies?
Yeah, we actually expect same level of demand in the new year. And when you look at the fact that we are only serving a couple of million patients living with obesity, some 40 million people living with diabetes, there is a huge market out there. And if you're really going to make a big dent in treating people living with obesity and preventing some of the follow-on diseases from that, it actually takes more than one company to do that. So I welcome competition that will help establish the obesity market. And then we're used to competing on having the best products. And the incoming competitor we've been competing with for 100 years, we have a huge respect for each other. So that's a healthy competition that actually brings better and better care to patients and taking burden off healthcare societies. So I think it's a win-win for not only the two companies, but also for society.
And what about the price pressures? Because we know the competitor in the US is a little bit cheaper. Is that putting pressure on you to lower your prices?
Yeah, so typically in the US you have a market structure where you launch at a list price and then you give rebates to get on, say, the insurance schemes. And you enhance rebates year over year. So we actually see that it's a stable competitive environment where we enhance these rebates and we realize a lower price. But again, the volume opportunity is much bigger than what we give in on value, so to say. And that's what leads to this attractive growth outlook also for 24.
As you were saying, there are potentially millions of patients out there that could benefit from Wegovy. What's your conversation like with policymakers, insurance regulators, and all those cash-strapped health systems on convincing to pay for this, saying, look, it's a good investment to pay for this now because you avoid some illnesses later on? It's tough for them because, as you were saying, they could have to pay for millions of patients potentially. So how are your discussions on that front?
Yeah, that's a really important topic, and I would draw attention to our cardiovascular outcome data that was announced in the second half of 23, where we proved that by being on anti-obesity medicine with our semaglutide high-dose product, you actually reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease by 20%. So when you start adding up all the benefits of treating obesity, as you allude to, there is a very robust case for governments. But of course, you have to understand obesity as a disease and what are the impacts of this. And we cannot yet promote these select data because they have to be on label before we can do that. But I see a growing interest and acknowledgement of obesity as a disease and also the cost burden that comes from that. And we are willing to make, say, contracts where we can make ends meet in terms of sharing the risk and the benefit of these medical interventions.